Today on Reese Dixon, we are making my favorite pot roast recipe, pot roast Swiss steak, all on my crock pot. Hi everybody, it's Teresa with ReeseDixon.com, and today I'm going to be making one of my favorite dinners I have ever created. And part of what makes this my favorite is that it was a total accident. So let me get this crock pot down because it's heavy. I've got this loaded with potatoes and carrots and celery, and I'm going to be making a crock pot roast, but I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently. I'm going to be making kind of a Swiss steak version, and Swiss steak is when you have a steak that's cooked with lots of tomatoes and sometimes peppers and onions. But like I said, this was an accident. So I was on the phone years ago, before Addie was even born. I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and we're gabbing away, and she's sharing with me a couple of recipes, and I'm taking apparently really crappy notes, and I get the recipes completely confused. So when I went to make her pot roast recipe, I accidentally made her sloppy joe recipe and wound up with this pot roast version, what I call the crock pot Swiss steak pot roast. So it was a total serendipitous, happy accident. One of those discoveries you can only make by screwing up, and why I think it's so good when you do. So here's what I've got working now. I've got my crock pot with the traditional pot roast vegetables, potatoes, carrots, celery. I've got a pan with a little bit of butter melting here. And then this is a dry pan that's heating up. Okay, so the first thing I did was I took one onion and one green pepper and I diced them up really fine. This is gonna become part of our sauce, so you want your cuts to be little bitty. And I'm just going to toss that in the butter and let that saute a bit. Turn my heat down. And let that saute until everything's nice and mushy. It tastes great. And now here is my hunk of meat. So that's what this dry pan is for. I don't ever cook a roast unless it's seared. And the reason for that, you might have been told that it's to seal in the juices, but that doesn't work. What searing is really good for is giving us a nice crispy crust on the outside. If I were just to throw a hunk of meat in the pot roast, you'd end up with something gray. And so I want that beautiful golden brown exterior, that crunch and that great flavor. And that's what we get from searing. So I'm gonna take my big hunk of meat and just put it right on top of a really hot pan. And I'm gonna twist that on all the sides until it gets nice and crusty and delicious. So now, with all of that cooking, I can make my sauce. Move my crock pot out of the way here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to add is a small can of tomato paste. I'm a huge fan of tomato paste. You get such a bold flavor with such little effort. And without adding a lot of liquid, so you don't get goopy sauce. Go. Okay, now to that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I've got some balsamic vinegar and some Worcestershire sauce. And, ooh, that smells great. Let's see here. Oh, look at that nice. See? That's what you want, okay? Look. I'm gonna add a couple tablespoons of both of that. There's my Worcestershire, and here's my balsamic. Balsamic and tomatoes, they're so perfect together. I almost never cook something where they're not together. Okay, this is my own custom hot sauce, but if you've got Tabasco in the fridge, that'll work just fine. You just want a few drops, just add a little kick there. Mine's a lot more mild than Tabasco, so I'm gonna add a bunch more, but if you're using Tabasco, 6-8 drops will do just fine. And then I've got some crushed red pepper and some chili powder. I'm gonna add, you can tell I am a real scientific cook. I'm just gonna add like, that looks good, a little palmful. And same with the chili powder. Yeah, that's about right. And salt. You're never done with if there's no salt. Okay, so I'm gonna mix this sauce up together and add maybe a couple cups of water. The amount of water that you add, it depends on the size of your meat and how much potatoes you want to cook. Your water can really kind of stretch your sauce to fit how much you're going to be needing to cover. So I'd say add enough water to this so that it covers your vegetables. Okay, I've got my big hunk of meat all seared up. Each side is just beautiful and crusty and golden brown. So it's ready to go into the crock pot. I'm just gonna toss it right on top of my veggies, making a little nest if I need to get the cover closed. There we go. Okay, there. So here's my peppers and onions, and they are nice and soft. I'm gonna pour those right over the top of my meat. And then here is my flavorful sauce with a little bit of water added. And I'm gonna pour that all over the top of everything. When I do a pot roast, I go pretty crazy for the vegetables. I love those good cooked vegetables. So I'm gonna add a little bit more water to make sure that I can cover the potatoes. I do not want dry potatoes. But once that's done, and so is my pot roast. So it's actually late at night right now. We've already eaten dinner, but tomorrow's gonna be a crazy day. So I'm going to cook this on low overnight. It's gonna smell so good, it might actually be hard for us to sleep. But when I wake up in the morning, dinner's gonna be done. And that means the whole rest of my day is gonna be amazing because I won't have that stress on me all day long. So I'm going to top this off, just sit this in a corner of my kitchen and let it cook. And tomorrow, I will share with you how gorgeous it is for such little effort. It's perfect. It always seems like on the days when you want a home-cooked meal the most, you have no time for a home-cooked meal. So this is heaven. Just after a crazy day, in the middle of a crazy day, I can stop and have just these delicious vegetables and meat that is so tender I didn't have to cut it. I just had to pull it apart with a fork. It's just so yummy. And because it's got that unique broth, all of the vegetables just taste so good. They're so spicy and full of that tomato richness. Oh my gosh, I just love this. So I'm gonna go finish my dinner. I hope that this was inspiring to you guys to give this little twist a try. If you do, I'd love to hear about it. So please leave me a comment and subscribe to the channel so that you can see more of my crazy twisted ideas, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.